Welcome to the Bible study. Okay, so basically, my name is Jude. I'm 18 and I want to walk through the Bible. And I figured I would just kind of put out what I've learned and all my thoughts. So this will be the first one. I think I'm going to call it Walking in the Old While Living in the New, or Walking Through the Old While Living in the New. I don't really know what I'm going to call it, but we're going to start in Genesis 1. I'm going to try and keep it quick so I have to go to work soon, but basically Genesis 1 talks about verse 1. It says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." And so those are the first words of the Bible. And I pointed out that there was a specific point in time where the universe was created. And I'll have to throw it up, but I think that actually scientifically, that is what they believe also, that there was a specific time that the universe was created, which I actually thought was super cool. And then it goes on, talks about how the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And it's like, then like creation was like blessed by God, that like his spirit was resting over it. And also like that stuff was going to happen, like something was going to happen. Like, God's not just there for no reason, right? Like something uh, was bound to happen. Um, and so then um, he creates light, says, "Let there be light," and there was light. And there's importance in the fact that he said um, that, like, he talked and made light become a thing. Just kind of like shows just like the power that he has. And then it also creates like the day cycle that we have of the light being the day and the darkness he called night, because he separated them. He separated light from darkness, um, and called the light day and called the darkness night. Um, and then he said there was evening and there was night and there was morning, and that was the first day. So now we have a day, okay? And then the second, so that was the first day. So now we have the second day. Um, he creates, it says, "And God said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And God made the expanse and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse. And it was so. And God called the expanse heaven." So this expanse that is called heaven isn't necessarily like the heaven that we're thinking about. Um, it From my research, it said that like the Hebrew word is kind of like um, the Hebrew word is hard to describe in English, but basically it's just like the sky. So he separates the water from the sky. So you have the ocean and you have the sky. So that was the second day. And then the third day, we have, let's see. Oh, the third day, God creates land. Said that, uh, and that he separated the waters and wanted dry land to appear, so dry land appeared. Um, and so we called the land Earth, and he called the seas that were now there, or sorry, foreshadowing. He called the water that was there seas. Um, and then God called it good. And on the land, um, sprouted up vegetation, so plants and trees and seeds and all that jazz. You know what I'm saying? But something interesting that I like realized when I was reading it was like God created land for a reason. Like he created all of these things for a reason. And like he created you for a reason. He created me for a reason. Like we have a purpose. We are created for a reason. And like we are important. Like we're not important in the sense that like we're all that matters, because obviously Jesus is the one that truly matters. But we're important in the sense that we all have a job to do. We all have all the purpose to fulfill. Okay, so that was the third day, right? And you go to the fourth day. It says, God created the sun and the moon. It says, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let the lights in the expanse of the heavens to give the light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars. So, sorry, I'm not very great at reading, so this kind of took me a while, but like it talks about how God creates the sun and creates the moon again for a reason, for a purpose. Okay, the sun is going to dictate the day, the moon's going to dictate the night, and that's what I think was really interesting. Was that the sun and the moon are basically like the governors of time, like they're governing time, like literally, like whenever the sun's out, it's going to be day. Whenever the moon's out, it's going to be night. So that's pretty crazy. Like that's pretty cool. Um, and then after that, he saw that it was good, and that was the fourth day. And the fifth day, God creates um, living creatures in the water. So we have sea creatures now. And I thought it was interesting. In verse 21, it says, "So God created the great sea creatures, and then and every living creature that moves, with which the waters swarm according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to their kinds." But the word used, or like what great sea creatures means, is kind of can be paralleled to like large serpents, dragons, crocodiles, whales, or sharks. So like those are kind of like your big guns. You know what I'm saying? But that is where, like, if you believe in like dragons or dinosaurs, like that's probably where they were created. You know what I mean? And then that was the fifth day. And then the sixth day is where we come in. God creates every living thing on the earth, um, according to their kinds, and he groups the animals in like three different categories: livestock, creeping things, and beasts. Which is interesting if that's how like a shepherd would experience the different animals. So he's gonna have livestock that he takes care of. They're gonna be creeping things he kind of has to deal with, and there's gonna be beasts that he's gonna have to like fend off. And so I just thought that was interesting, and it talks about how, like, obviously not every animal, like, it's not gonna be like, it's not like super easy to group every animal. There's three categories, but I thought that was kind of interesting. Of like throughout the Bible, like we see like paraphrases, or like uh oh my gosh, what's it called? Like paraphrases, or and like just wordage that resemble shepherds. So I thought that was cool. And then God also said, "Let us make man in our image." Okay, so this is interesting. Or like, oh, well, there's only one God, right? Yes. Let me break this down. Okay, so the word, the Hebrew word that was used for God here is Elohim, which is plural. So like, if you take it just like that, it means like God is plural. Okay, but when we're talking through this creation story, okay, the word created is very singular, like very specific and individual. And so there's one God creating every one of these things. Like there's not like a bunch of different gods creating a bunch of different things. It's God creating a bunch of different things, but then it's kind of weird. It's like, well, then how is God plural? Well, that's where we would get into the Trinity of Father, Son, and the Spirit, right? So I thought that was actually like super cool. Like we're made in the image of God, of like the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. Like that's really cool. I mean, it's just like shows like just how majestic God is, right? Like that's kind of crazy. Um, and then verse 27 says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them." So it's a specific distinction of every human, like male and female. The word used is um, Adam, or sorry, the Hebrew word for man used is Adam, which is a generic term for male and female. But little foreshadowing here, we'll see later that becomes the actual name of a singular man named Adam. So it can be used for plural, but also for singular. It just depends on the context. Um, and so God blessed man and said to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth." And like, dang, dude, like we got dominion over all this. Sorry, let me scroll down on my notes. But uh, like we have such a unique build. Like we are so different than any other animal. That we can think, understand, communicate, build relationships, and we have like the capability to be creative and like come up with things that don't already like exist, right? Like we see like man-made things like technology and just stuff like that. Like it's crazy. It's such a wonderful gift that I feel like we take for granted a lot of the time. Of like, yeah, it's not that crazy, but no, that like that's like a God-given gift. Like, that is very special, and that also gives us the what we need to be able to rule over the earth. We are called to rule over the earth and have dominion as God rules over us. We are supposed to submit to God and basically God is still going to govern all of this. He's still going to rule all of this, but he's given us a job to have dominion over the earth and to rule the earth for him, right? So, and then God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. It wasn't just good like everything else. It was very, very good. It was very pleasing to him. And how awesome is that for us and all of creation to be called pleasing to the one Almighty God? So I thought that was super cool. That was the sixth day. Genesis 2 gets into the seventh day where God rests, and also the creation of man and woman. So hopefully you'll be back, and yeah, peace out.